Reading out of Staring at the Sun by Stacey Day. He meets you at the river in your doctor's office, and as I sat nearing the bottom of a tissue box at the end of the worst year of my life, with dealing with my emotions of not being able to be with my dying mother, he arrives in his Sunday's best to give me his ears and eyes, and I am nearing piecing together my biggest fears and explaining my unusual behavior. Behavior described to me as risky. Risky behavior is a cry for help and must mean that I'm crazy. So this was before I was diagnosed with schizophrenia. I was diagnosed with schizophrenia right before I had met this therapist, and this is the introduction of the therapist that is more talked about in the Holy Grail, because I had major delusions after the hospital stay that I started hallucinating him instead of Jesse. So now I had to deal with that. So it was another unavailable man that I had fixated my love on. But I have risky behavior because of my mania that makes me talk very cringy about stuff. So there's some cringe factor. So just ride the wave and get over it. And because we got to edit some stuff out, because I did my very best. Risky behavior is a cry for help and must mean that I'm crazy. He is the first person and only person to tell me you're not crazy, you're just smarter than everyone. And I free fall into this memory, finally, after years of being insecure of being less than. I have a major insecurity about my intelligence, so that's why it was such a big deal, and that's what I tried to convey with writing this way. My hands were bloody from years of proving to everyone wrong. As I talk about my insecurity of my intelligence, my hands were bloody from years of proving everyone wrong. I am not dumb or crazy. I'm just smarter than you. It's not a disoriented memory or misheard words. It's written in my medical record for the world at the top of the volcano to read, and the sharks to go over the notes of my downfall. I was hallucinating and wrote like everyone has sharks and volcanoes and stuff in my corporate life. I was a corporate healthcare trainer, and I really glorified myself in that role. That's my ego talking. I have since ate a lot of humble pie. He undid what every person who said, take a pill and go back to work. He said, go home and fix your family. If it's this job that's making you unhappy, then leave. Then he continued to listen to me describe my grandmother's death in a trailer down the way from where we sat, knowing that someone in this new world finally got why I cry so much, why I cannot hear discomforts, and until this point in my life, I felt my screams were unheard. My words were loaded into a gun being used to kill me. He told me to put down the gun. Not a real gun. This is a metaphorical gun, but I have the my thoughts hurt me, but I fight them off like a warrior princess. This was a man who wasn't using my pain against me. He continued to advise me to stay. You are none of he continued to advise me by saying, "You are none of those things they say you are. And if you hurt someone, you had a reason in that moment. Now just forgive yourself and love on your family and water yourself first. And after you get done, take your can to your family. And after you fill up your can, walk to your chickens and give the rest. And keep working the soil, and the fruits will come in the spring." Now, I think I kind of elaborated that. I don't think he said all that. I think he was like, I think what he said was like, Stacy, go home, work on your marriage, because he was like my very best friend, and I told him very intimate details of my life because he was a therapist, so it helped, and he was my best friend, and I talked good about Jeff, and that's why everyone was like, Stacy, Jeff's a good guy, he builds you chicken coops and pools and stuff, and he's angry all the time, and I'm like, yeah, he's angry all the time, and there's stuff that you don't know that I don't talk about at work that is bothering me that I don't want to say on my podcast, but that was real stuff going on back then that isn't a problem today. But Jeff wasn't the problem, it was my schizophrenia. And this talk helped me to recenter in the path I needed to get back on, told me to say sorry once more and move on, comforted me in the words that if I am Stacy, I cannot fail, and failing is not in my DNA, and if I do, I am going to go out in a bang. Those people were. So he asked me, he said, "What is your greatest fear?" As part of therapy, he asked me what my greatest fear was. Now, I had a crush on him, like, I'll just be honest, but we all did. So what has happened is that crush and writing about this, I wrote very professionally. Then in the Holy Grail, I kind of just got it off my chest of my feelings, and my feelings were a very sweet love story. Now we would just laugh, like, he's unavailable, he's married, but I had a little crush on him. I got a crush on everybody. Um, those people were a part of the storm around me and got me to read how I would never do drugs because they almost kill everyone I love, and drugs took everything from me. And then I get into like my childhood story about dealing with like addictions in my childhood that we don't need to read for the podcast. We remember, but staring at the sun.